When it comes to video games, death is inevitable.
You know, I kind of thought that I was in control. I was pressing buttons. I thought that doing so would help people, but no, it doesn't. You'd think that would work, but no. It just takes and takes, and it doesn't care. It doesn't care, and at the end you feel like a piece of shit. It doesn't matter to. It just. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care anymore. I'm done. I've improved. I'm having a lovely time. So you can't bring me back because I don't care anymore. Okay. Maybe for a video.
We all remember what game we were playing when a character died unexpectedly. Mortality is handled in a way that is unique to video games because of how the player approaches the medium. There's a level of control that video games give you that set up the illusion that events will play out based on the decisions you make and the actions you take. You may think that missing a jump or running out of health is the full extent of the problem, but many video games are more than happy to punch you where it hurts with a shocking death that you had no chance of stopping. So, if you're looking for a video that talks about some of the more surprising examples and retreads delicate ground of beloved characters biting the dust, then, oh man, you don't need to go anywhere. Let's get real sad together. If crazy plot twists that come about from hours of build-up and intricate planning are your thing, then Phoenix Wright is certainly a franchise to consider. Even if this was a fairly standard affair where you discover the truth behind whatever court case and defendant you've been assigned, it'd be the source of many interesting developments, but this whole series is funky. Sometimes the cases will be simple murder mysteries, but then there was that time with the monkey, and having to cross-examine this guy, and oh yeah, there was that one game where you found out that you had been defending a dead guy this whole time. Told you these games were weird. I feel like only Ace Attorney games could ever pull this off. Halfway through a trial in Spirit of Justice in which you're defending Apollo's foster father, Dirk Sardmardi, after he was accused of murder, it's revealed that a photo has been taken of Dirk's 3-day-old dead body, which is surprising considering his very alive presence before the trial. As it turns out, he asked known spirit medium Maya Fey to channel his spirit and take him to America so he could see his son and help him out with the trial. Apollo doesn't take the revelation well, and I reckon no one playing at this point thought, oh yeah, this is exactly what I thought was happening. This guy who's very clearly alive, oh no, he's been dead for a long time. Yeah, I'm a genius. It's probably not as weird as these games have gotten since you had to defend an orca before, but maybe the biggest shock. You could say that half of these characters are secretly dead, and I'm sure the writers would find a way to make that work. Shouldn't be giving them any ideas. I'm supposed to be talking about deaths that shock and surprise the player, but there is a way of preparing for this. You'd expect games with a heavy focus on story to be very keen on killing off characters, so you should play those kind of games with that thought in the back of your mind. Or just a general paranoia for everything. That sounds healthy. And by proxy, you'd expect a game that doesn't care so much about the story to not necessarily sweep the rug out from underneath you and kill someone off unexpectedly. Generally this is true, but this has the added effect of causing genuine shock when a gameplay-focused video game starts going crazy with the plot twists. You end up being more vulnerable and susceptible to the game running wild and introducing fun, wholesome characters only to fuck them up later on. Harvest Moon is not even close to being the kind of game you'd play if you're interested in anything other than pretending to run a farm and using feathers to marry the townsfolk. What's that? You can't enjoy a farming game without someone dying out of nowhere? No worries, I got you covered. So Harvest Moon 64 is home to a plethora of interesting characters, but Ellen is one of the few carried over from previous games. She's actually been in quite a few Harvest Moon games, but I am not sure how the timeline works. She's quite old in all of them, and I think there might be a time jump or parallel universes, or I don't fucking... Yeah. I bring this up because in Harvest Moon 64 she's suffering from an illness that confines her to a rocking chair, which is usually the sort of thing that starts with a quest that helps you get closer to her granddaughter Ellie by curing her grandma. But hey, life ain't that simple, bruv. If you talk to her from the second year onwards on certain days, you'll watch a cutscene where she succumbs to her illness and passes away, which is both quite the shock in such a cheerful game and also incredibly depressing for serving that harsh dose of reality in a game all about escapism. That sweet old lady taught me how to make walnut cake. Ah, shit. A surprising death can serve a lot of different uses. It can provide motivation for the hero, it can act as a plot twist to move the story along, it can be used as a confusing way of ending a video game. Nothing says thanks for playing quite like watching the end credits shortly after the writers threw in just one last fuck you to the player. I don't know, that may have been their intention, or potentially it's just how the story was supposed to go all this time. BioShock Infinite was doing just fine as a tale of one man's journey to overthrow a floating totalitarian government in the sky, but very quickly went off the deep end and into a bizarre world of alternate universes and time rifts. What? Why would you... That's a crazy thing to do. What? The ending of BioShock Infinite is a classic case of events unfolding faster than you can process them. You're being fed exposition and sent to strange locations, all while earlier moments of ending up in Rapture from the previous games and escaping the giant songbird are still fresh in your mind. It is hard to focus on what Elizabeth is saying to you, so it does come as a surprise when everyone arrives at the conclusion that the only logical course of action is for protagonist Booker DeWitt to be drowned at his own baptism. We went from here to here, and I'm not so sure how. Something about Booker being the same person as the bad guy, but in an alternate universe, and that time needs to be rewritten in order for things to go back to normal? I think that's about right. It takes a good 5 minutes to work all that out, at which point you've been dead for that long, and only now can you explain why. At the moment it happens though, it is too much to take in such a short space of time. It's like, hang on, why did that just happen? The previous games were never this complicated at the end. You were either saving the little sisters or being enough of a dick to take over the surface world. You know, nice and simple. I'd like to tap more into the idea that a shocking death early on in the game sets a tone that the rest of your journey has to abide by. There's a common misconception that there's a grace period at the start of a game where everyone's safe and no one has to worry about dying, because that's just what the writers want you to think. If every event that succeeds this is significantly darker than the intro, then you should have seen it coming. Few games start off as wonderfully quaint as Mother 3, where you're introduced to main character Lucas and his caring family, and just so many wholesome individuals who brighten up my life. That just means that everyone's gonna start dying, isn't it? I've always been fascinated by how a game goes to shit, and indeed how far a game has to go to give the protagonist some conflict to overcome. There's always like a trigger point after which the game kind of settles into its natural rhythm. Mother 3 has one singular moment like this, and you are unlikely to miss it. So some dickhead bad guys set fire to a nearby forest and invade your hometown, prompting some of the locals to do what they can to rescue the townspeople and drive the invaders out. After such a calm and comforting opening, this represents a period of chaos where characters lose track of one another and have to fight off a lot of abominations posing as enemies. Tonally, it's drastically different, and that's without the bombshell that Lucas's mother HINAWA was stabbed through the chest by a Drago Fang. Like, holy shit, that's some graphic imagery. And also an incredibly heart-wrenching way of developing characters like Flint, who explodes in a bout of devastated rage, and signalling that Mother 3 is pulling even fewer punches than Earthbound. And Earthbound was a fucked up video game. You are not prepared for what comes next. I'm under the impression that in order to talk about shocking deaths, I have to spoil a lot of video games. Some of these are genuinely amazing and harrowing, which means that I feel like a bit of a dick for ruining the surprise for people who don't mind me spoiling a bunch of well-crafted narratives. But that would imply that all of these games are fairly recent and that not a lot of people have played them yet. Final Fantasy VII is neither. We all know where this is going, so I might as well jump right in by saying that Aerith's contribution in this game has been picked apart by significantly better men and women than I. She doesn't just die via giant sword strike from above as a means of capping off that section of the game so we can move on to bigger and more important things. Aerith's death is simultaneously a perfect showcase of how much of a dick Sephiroth is, and also such a great way of instantly shocking the player. Shortly before this, Cloud was possessed in order to kill Aerith, but he shook it off, and so everything's okay now. Aerith can pray in peace for the means to stop the bad guy without having to worry about some guy dropping from the ceiling and plunging his sword and oh, come on! It might be common knowledge nowadays, but in the formative years of the internet, and even as recently as 10 years ago, this made for some solemn discussion. Aerith was a likable character who represented purity and all the good in the world. If you suddenly put a sword through that, people are going to be pretty dismayed. Just had to make things difficult, didn't you? Expectations play a huge role in setting up a surprise death. Like, there's no way of shocking the player if you can look at a character and the role they play in a game and think, yeah, they are absolutely fucked. This is very important and is most of the reason why I've never taken a fancy to, let's say, content guidelines that spoil the surprise. Doki Doki Literature Club seems like a run-of-the-mill content-starved dating sim that you can waste a few hours on in the vague hope that you'll find something of interest in here. That would be an appropriate stance to take, but the Steam page calls it psychological horror, and as soon as you boot it up, you're warned of the disturbing content that awaits you. So people are gonna die, and I'm gonna feel bad about it. Awesome, just needed that clearing up. But just because DDLC loses a bit of a surprise factor doesn't mean that Sayori's death is anything other than a surefire way of completely stunning the player off the face of the earth. Towards the end of the first act, events were unfolding that hinted at what was in store for you, and indeed what kind of game DDLC really is. But Sayori's suicide is the true tipping point. At this stage, you're made to believe that Sayori hung herself because her very realistically written depression got the better of her, which is practically the embodiment of nothing you could have done about it. And that'll fuck you up. I couldn't get it off my mind for a good week afterwards because it hits too close to home, and I kept thinking if there was any way of preventing this. There isn't, and I'm almost glad that I was given prior warning. Ends up being a little less shocking, but the caution was useful. I'll never trust a dating sim ever again. Doki Doki Literature Club might have its strange moments, but overall it's a game with a structure that works within its own reality. Things happen and make sense, don't think too hard about it, and you'll have a lot of fun. Danganronpa, on the other hand, is set up from the start to be this fever dream of a video game where death is common, and trying to establish a foundation from which to understand things is not easy. The premise depends on the game you're playing at the time, but usually you're trapped inside a high school of other students, where some remote-controlled bear has you solving a murder mystery in order to earn your freedom. Oh yeah, it's so simple when you lay it out like that. As is the case with most games like this, don't get too attached to anyone because they're probably gonna die. In weird and beautiful ways. This is what you signed up for. You do, however, need someone to follow through the game who acts as your surrogate and almost as a death that can't happen. Regardless of all the crap that unfolds beyond the start, you can be sure that the protagonist is relatively safe from harm. This remained true until the third game, where naturally things were shaken up a bit and you've got a new character to control. Some nice girl called Kaede Akumatsu. She likes the piano and not being killed by the psycho bear. She's very relatable like that. So naturally it comes as quite the shock when it's revealed that Kaede is in fact the culprit of the first murder, and having confessed to everyone, she's the first character on the chopping block. The execution itself is Danganronpa's typical blend of dark humor and surreal visuals as Kaede dies of asphyxiation as her body is used to play piano keys, but the real shock here is the protagonist dying at the start of the game. You had been controlling Kaede for some time before this revelation, and there wasn't much prior warning about this. She did not seem like a murderer. It's an effective way of keeping you on your toes, I guess. You know who likes a good plot twist in the form of the sudden death of a character? Rockstar, though I realise I can't actually talk about many of the examples without unnecessarily spoiling a bunch of video games. Just know that when these kind of games write themselves into a corner and need a tonic to move the story along a bit, someone's gonna die. You start looking through the cast of characters with the knowledge that any one of these could end up being killed, but you rarely think about the protagonist. They wouldn't, would they? That's the funny thing about the film noir genre. It doesn't usually end all that well for the protagonist. Unsurprisingly, given the name and the setting and the focus on lots of people being killed, LA Noire is a video game that borrows heavily from this genre and indeed its unique ways of telling a dark storyline. The main character Cole Phelps is a flawed but ultimately noble workman-like individual who quickly builds a reputation for his excellent service in the Marine Corps and as a no-nonsense detective. He provides a good base for the player to mold his character into a more sympathetic or psychotic individual depending on their choices, but it's his final mission that shows his true colours. Having rescued his love Elsa from the LA river tunnels, he helps her to safety through a manhole cover just as a huge wave of water engulfs him. This is another one of those scenes that is over so quickly that you have no chance to really take in what has happened as you sit there watching his funeral completely dumbfounded with the direction LA Noire has gone in. Again, the genre implied that the writing was on the wall for Cole Phelps, but that doesn't make it any less shocking. It's actually kind of anticlimactic, which I think makes it even more painful. It's not the death he deserved, not even close. A protagonist dying is surprising because we all know how protagonists work within a story. Usually you don't kill them because they work as an insert for the player and not every player wants to go down the self-sacrifice route. But a lot of main characters work in a different, almost inverted way. Batman, for example, works like an insert, but he does have pre-existing character traits and a modus operandi that players can empathize with. Stop the bad guys, clean up Gotham City of crime, and to do so without killing anyone. At least not through obvious means. Groups of mooks in the Arkham series take a lot of punches to the head that may cause brain damage or internal bleeding, but who's gonna know? And that one really critical rule of Batman mythos is what makes the stakes present in Batman Arkham City so interesting. The events of the previous game have left the Joker very sick with some complicated illness that doesn't have a conventional cure. In order to get someone else working on it, the Joker infects Batman and a bunch of hospitals with the same illness, forcing Batman to seek out a solution. Many things take place before the final confrontation between Batman and the Joker, with Batman having already cured himself, and now debating whether or not doing the same to the Joker would be a good idea or not. If you want to ponder Batman's philosophy of not killing, would saving the Joker make Batman responsible for dozens of more deaths in the future? There's a lot of points to think about on this subject, but Batman doesn't get that long because the Joker attacks him, causing the vial of cure to smash on the ground. So yeah, the Joker dies in this game, which has not happened very often in all of Batman media. Batman ends up being partially responsible, which carries repercussions into the next game, and it's also the kind of gargantuan event that leaves the player reeling as they watch the credits and try to process what just happened. The Joker can't just die. He's this supernatural force of chaos in the world. He isn't susceptible to illness, he is the illness. Didn't stop him from turning up in the next game though, because Rocksteady can't let a good thing die. That's the least surprising part of this video. Let's go back to the theme of control I was playing around with at the start, and how subverting the expectations you have when in control of a character can be just about as potent as physically possible. Going against what you'd expect when in control of a character is an effective way of promoting a feeling of helplessness in a medium of entertainment that is focused more and more on player choice these days. Taking it away will fucking rock your socks off, and this is something that Red Dead Redemption understood and mastered for mere mortals to look in on from the outside in awe. I'm reminded that you're given the best part of 18 hours to ride along with the events of Red Dead Redemption and bear witness to the growth and development of John Marston's character. He's a former outlaw who's been hired by the FBI to travel to the Wild West and apprehend members of his old gang, which is both a job that doesn't always go so well for John, but also one that takes a while. It allows you time to sympathize with a man who just wants a normal life and to leave his past behind, which he can only do by tracking down former friends and criminals. And he does just that, at which point the FBI back off and leave John and his family to their ranch. That is a good, satisfying ending that leaves everyone feeling good about themselves. That's not how it ends, though. Because the government are in fact full of dicks, the FBI show up on Marston's doorstep looking to tie up loose ends and kill John once and for all. You make a good last stand, but they've got a lot of men with guns and you've got a family, so John faces them alone. In a cruel twist, the Deadeye mechanic activates, which usually allows you to line up headshots during this slow-mo sequence, but there's just way too many of them. John Marston is effectively subjected to a firing squad that neither he nor the player stood any chance of defeating, resulting in the death that the FBI were looking for. This may be a less idealistic outcome and more indicative of what would have happened if the FBI were working with a former outlaw, but after so much promise, and especially with the game coming to a natural conclusion, John Marston's death is devastating to watch. Not an outcome you can change, but one that will stick with you for a very long time to come. This is RabbidLuigi, and Red Dead Redemption is the story of inescapable consequences, which is something that I have very rarely, if ever, seen in a video game before. It's cause and effect and corporate-minded ruthlessness taken to a logical extreme that no one agrees with, while also being representative of that time period. I have no idea what the next game's about, but that's so much pressure.